Welcome to Matters Financial and Geopolitical from the Frontier. Just to warn you or encourage you that I'll be away for about 10 days, so there'll be no podcast over that period. And I want to just say how much I appreciate people stopping by. I had some great feedback yesterday from somebody who discovered the channel, and I'm very grateful for that. Well, we've had a lot happen overnight. I sort of woke up at 5 in the morning, looked at what was happening, and saw straight away that something had happened. Gold price had surged, oil had surged, but gold rallies on safe haven demand as US missiles hit Syrian targets, last trading at 1263.80. Let's keep an eye on that, but at these sort of levels, I think it's a bit of a trading sell more than a buy. September 2014, I quoted Ben Bernanke, who was asked, why do people hold gold? And he said, as protection against what we call tail risks, really, really bad outcomes, is what he was saying. Nassim Taleb, probability du jour, the border between pintails and fat tails resides in exponential distribution. Take a look at what he's saying as well. Tom Keane asks, is this currency manipulation looking at the trade-weighted renminbi? It was such a pleasure to catch up with a dear friend of mine, Alberto Labella, and I'll put up a photograph of the two of us, and with a freshly minted Mrs. Labella as well. Alberto, it was a great pleasure to catch up in person and also to meet the missus. I like this photograph. It's titled Wim Wenders, and if you haven't watched any Wim Wenders, he's terribly atmospheric in a very interesting manner. I like this quote from Bloomberg Pursuits. I was like, we'll drink, but we'll Krug once a month instead of going out to the bars twice a week. On that note, let me put up a photograph of some Krug champagne in a cold box. Like other species, we are the products of millions of years of adaptation. Now we're taking matters into our own hands. We will transcend all of the limitations of our biology, Kurzweil promised. That is what it means to be human, to extend who we are. I tried Tom Brady's new meal delivery service, and it's not just for bros folk. It looked rather tasty. Have a look. I like this photograph, beautiful dawn in Nairobi, photo by Nairobi Foet. And then I couldn't resist this. The future belongs to robots that can surf. So let's go and think about that. Okay, let's move on to the big event. Syria, 59 US missiles fired in response to this gas attack. Trump says Syria ignored warnings. And I thought to myself, plus ça change, plus c'est la même chose. Conclusions, it was actually, in my view, a predictable response by Donald Trump, given the circumstances he finds himself in. However, I do not think it is an open and shut case on the evidence. The US launched a military strike on Syria in response to the chemical weapons attack earlier in the week. Brent Crude surged above $56 a barrel, last trading at around $55.70. The guided missile destroyer USS Porter conducted strike operations whilst in the Mediterranean Sea. That's ABC News. Independent Donald Trump spun 180 degrees from America First to strike Assad. This is what you get with a reflexive president in a neck-sapping 48 hours. He has gone from America First to plunging headlong into punching militarily into the heart of a conflict thousands of miles from the homeland. He has gone from incoherency to coherency, or has he? The coherent part is compelling his predecessor made a sap of himself. and of the nation by saying that the use of chemical weapons would be the red line that would trigger American action, and then backed away when it was duly crossed, in part because of queasiness in London, if you recall. That something was coming in the end, a fairly nominal barrage of unmanned cruise missiles against a single target, a regime airfield close to Homs in western Syria, was clear when President Trump raged against the use precisely of nerve gas against civilians, including beautiful little babies, by the forces of President Assad at a news conference alongside the visiting King Abdullah of Jordan in the Rose Garden on Wednesday. Missiles flying, Rubio's happy, McCain ecstatic, Hillary's on board, a complete policy change in 48 hours. Wall Street Journal, quoting somebody saying the US is able to show how powerful they are, America's role as the world policeman is back. The Russians are set talking about negative consequences. Putin was a bit more forthright. So there we have it. We've seen responses like this before. Bill Clinton, you'll remember. I think it's premature. I think President Trump has been effectively boxed in by Saudi Arabia, Qatar, and the UAE. And I'm not convinced that the regime was responsible. There might be a principal-agent relationship, but I can't believe that just 2 days after receiving a free pass, you're going to drop chemical weapons in the war. President Trump says he's forged a friendship with his Chinese counterpart Xi Jinping. Trump predicts a very great relationship, but jokes he's gotten nothing from Xi so far. Breaking, in-house Intel Chairman Nunes to step down from Russia probe. That was widely expected. We have a deviate tomahawk, you will recall. Aung San Suu Kyi denies Rohingya are being ethnically cleansed. And my conclusions are that she is no Nelson Mandela, I'm afraid. Have a look at this photo from the blast site in St. Petersburg. I like this quote: "Welcome to the world of strategic analysis, where we program weapons that don't work to meet threats that don't exist." T-55 turret on a commercial truck, Mad Max Middle East style. This is Mike Yeo. Currency markets, well, we've been all over the place. Let's start at the beginning. Euro dollar 106.38, dollar index 100.65, Japanese yen 110.60, Swiss franc 100.45, the pound 124.56, the Aussie is at 0.7526, India rupee 64.385, South Korean won 11.3415, Brazilian real 314.30, Egyptian pound 18.0475, South African rand 13.7828. Dollar index 99.50 is still a key, works some way above that. Euro dollar, according to Aurelia, this was a key level, a key pivot. We're now trading at 106.38. Dollar yen, I think my target there is actually 108, and then probably stronger than that as well. But currently, dollar yen is at 110.60. And then this is interesting. Toronto prices rose 33% in March from a year earlier. That's pretty incredible. An average detached downtown home now costs nearly 1.2 million US dollars. Commodity markets, crude oil, like we are rebounding now. US crude oil at 52.83. Let's keep an eye on that. Coking coal also was up 40% so far this week, as Australia production was disrupted after a cyclone. That's Javier Blas. Venezuela's PDVSA says it will make April 12 bond payment after a plunge in crude production and dwindling cash flows spurred bets on a default. Caracas-based Petroleos de Venezuela SA told investors that principal and interest payments related to its bond that matures this month will be available in investor accounts on April the 12th, the company said in an email statement. It also added it had already started transferring coupon payments for other bonds that mature in 2027 and 2037. Do you think we would have been better off in default? Maduro told a business group in Caracas on March 23rd. Let's think of the national interest of our land. There continue to be insipid people who attack Venezuela from the inside and outside, when we must all unite in a single effort to work. Payment sources from anything other than petrodollar cash flow will confirm a negative cash flow and hence a limited strategy for scarce financing options. If officials need to monetize FX reserves, then this confirms negative cash flow and less flexibility for the passive muddling through strategy. I don't know who's making that banging noise, but it continues. I said on the 27th of March, keep an eye on Caracas, Riyadh, Abuja, Luanda, and the rest. Obviously, this little bounce is quite supportive for them. Fantastic, interesting article in The Economist, the Gulf's little Sparta, the ambitious UAE, says The Economist, tucked away behind rows of tin shacks and unkempt acacia trees, a cluster of tumble-down villas, mosques and a synagogue, conjures up the grandeur of a port that once marked the southern tip of the Ottoman Empire. Berbera is the true key of the Red Sea, the center of East African traffic, and the only safe place for shipping upon the western Erythraean shore, wrote Richard Burton, a British traveller, in 1855. Occupation by the British has been advised for many reasons. After the British came the Russians, and in the 1980s, NASA, America's space agency, which wanted its runway, one of Africa's longest, as an emergency stop for its space shuttle. Now, the UAE's Berbera's latest arriviste. On 1st March, DP World, a port operator based in Dubai, began working from Berbera's beachside hotel. Officials put little Emirati flags on their desks and refined plans to turn a harbour serving the breakaway Republic of Somaliland into a gateway to the 100 million people of one of Africa's fastest growing economies, that being Ethiopia. 3 weeks later, the UAE unveiled another deal for a 25-year lease of air and naval bases alongside. The agreement, rejoiced a Somaliland minister in the hotel cafe, amounted to the first economic recognition of his tiny republic. It would fill the government's coffers, bolster its fledgling army. Businessmen sat at his table discussing solar power stations, rocketing land prices, and plans for a Kempinski hotel. Berbera is the latest of a string of ports the UAE is acquiring along some of the world's busiest shipping routes. From Dubai's Jebel Ali, the Middle East's largest port, is extending its reach along to the southern rim of Arabia, up the Horn of Africa to Eritrea, from where the UAE's corvettes and a squadron of Mirage bombers wage war in Yemen, and on to Limassol and Benghazi in the Mediterranean. If we waited to prevent these threats at our borders, we might be overrun. But as the expansion accelerates, observers are asking whether the UAE is bent on the pursuit of regional influence. The UAE has won Berbera and Eritrea as a south base by agreement, but elsewhere it applies force. Some wonder what the prince's father and the UAE's founder, Sheikh Zayed Al Nahyan, would have made of it all. Be obedient to Allah and use your intelligence instead of resorting to arms, he used to counsel when fellow Arabs went to war. I was in Abu Dhabi not too long ago, and I took this photograph of the Grand Mosque, and you can in fact see an Apache helicopter if you look closely. And then the second photograph, it's a marvellous mosque, it's the Grand Mosque, and I took this photograph whilst I was inside. Sub-Saharan Africa, President Formaggio declares a state of war and urges Somali people to stand with the armed forces in the fight against terror groups. Can Africa out-Trump Trump, asks the New African. On the face of it, the Trump administration will be bad for Africa. The only plus point is that he knows so little about the continent, that the opportunity is there to try and fill in the blanks using his own negotiating philosophy, make him a deal he cannot turn down. The question is, do we have the leadership with the skills to carry this out? Interesting. DR Congo, what next for the political process? This is the International Crisis Group. Last 10 days have seen important developments in the DR Congo and the end of the DR Congo Catholic Church's attempt to implement its 31st December agreement. More violence in the Kasai provinces, a new UN Security Council resolution, and a speech by President Kabila announcing the imminent appointment of a new Prime Minister. Then asking how are all of these connected. As I said yesterday, I think President Kabila, he's practically expelled Moishi. Tshisekedi is dead, and I think he's largely running the show once more. South Africa's president is tottering, says The Economist. I think he survives, which makes the situation even more bearish. The death of a struggle hero brought the great and the good of South Africa together in mourning. Ahmed Kathrada, who was sentenced to life on Robben Island alongside Nelson Mandela, died on March 28th. His funeral at a Johannesburg cemetery drew former presidents, sitting cabinet ministers, the Chief Justice of the High Court, and the leaders of the African National Congress. There was one conspicuous absence, Jacob Zuma. Instead, the man who had preceded him as South African president read from a letter in which Mr. Kathrada, in a final act of resistance, called on Mr. Zuma to resign. The crowd of mourners erupted in cheers. Such is the tenor of opposition to Mr. Zuma, who's won an approval rating of just 20% among urban South Africans, though higher among rural ones. Even those who backed him through countless scandals are now calling for him to quit. I think he's going to manage to hold on. I'll put up a photograph of the new finance minister, Gigabo, who's one of his first actions was to sign off on that nuclear deal. I did an interview on Al Jazeera with Sami Zaidan, all about this. Do take a look if you haven't had a chance. South African all shares up 4.47% this year. Barclays Africa has fallen more than any other banking stock in Johannesburg in 2017. And this is highly problematic, and this was a risk that we're trying to avoid. Dollar versus rand last at 13.7828. I think it's going to 14.40. Egyptian pound versus the dollar. Take a look at this. We're back at 18. Nigeria needs an oil price of $139 a barrel to balance its budget. That's Fitch ratings. Lowest is Kuwait at 45, Qatar at 51, Republic of Congo at 52. The Arab UAE is at 60, Nigeria 139. I don't think they got Venezuela in there, curiously. The Nigerian all shares down 4.17% this year. The Ghana Stock Exchange Composite Index is plus 12.26% this year. Here in Kenya, the National Super Alliance, otherwise known as NASA, is recommending that Raila Odinga is the presidential candidate and Kalonzo Musyoka is his running mate. I think essentially it is the president's election to lose. Kenya shilling is last trading at 103.45. Nairobi NSE all share is at a 13-week high and just minus 0.53% for the year, so about to pop into a year's high any moment. NSE 20 is down 2.67% this year. In Africa, 1 in 3 senior managers would offer a bribe to win or retain new business. This is in courts. In Africa, that figure is at 77% of those polled reporting corruption in their sectors. Kenya ranked the highest in Africa, ahead of South Africa, Nigeria, and 6th globally. That's highly worrying. With 73% of Generation Y holding the view that unethical action can be justified to help a business survive, it is imperative to pay attention to the younger generation, since they are the future businesses, says Dennis Machiri. It's not good news, I'm afraid, is it really? Once again, thank you for stopping by. Wish you a great break from my podcasts, and see you on Maritime.